Sweet. All right. Hello, people of YouTube land. Those of that are listening on Spotify or any other audio format thing that you're listening this to. Those that follow Ted and I on Twitch, and people that are part of the Cringe Crew gaming community Discord. This is the Cringe Crew gaming movie review podcast. I'm Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And we're doing the essential werewolf movies for Halloween. At least this is the first of the maybe trifecta? Are we official with trifecta?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. If a certain person keeps up with their end of the deal, we should have a trifecta. But anyway, last week we saw The Wolfman, and this week we saw, ha ha ha, I'm through the curtain. I actually been like, fucking 3 weeks. But, we just saw, Stephen King's Silver Bullet, which is one of my favorite werewolf movies, and I think is, like, kind of a must-see, although, when we get to it, let's just say I remember this movie being a lot more serious than it actually was. God, it's so weird remembering things, ain't it? Like movies that you haven't seen in a while, especially movies that you really like, and then you rewatch them, and you're just like, I remember this being this janky.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to think of it how you think it is rather than thinking of it how it actually is.
Oh well. But anyway, made in actually released in 1985. It is based off of Stephen King's novella Psycho the Werewolf, and directed by Dan Attias, and uncredited for the person that was directed I think most of the movie, but probably or at least some of it, Don Coscarelli. The screenplay was written by Stephen King, and I already said it's based off of all right, Psycho the Werewolf, and had a budget of $7 million and had a box office return of $12.4 million, or 5.4 million North American. So 5.4 million specifically North America, led 12.4 million worldwide.
What?
I guess.
Okay.
I get that's so weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we'll start with the background. Originally Stephen King was planning on doing a calendar. That's what Psycho the Werewolf was going to be, kind of like a comic book type of calendar. And originally, each month was going to have a comic book illustration by comic book artist Bernie Wrightson, and then it was going to have a short vignette by Stephen King. However, King found the size of the vignettes very small and extremely limited, and it was a huge problem for him to make like a cohesive story. Which I'm pretty sure Ted is fucking laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the Shining episodes, Ted thinks Stephen King is a hack.
Don't worry, I'll say it again. No spoilers needed.
That being said, it turned into a novella, and this is besides his short stories, this is Stephen King's shortest work, so basically shortest novel to date, with being 127 pages, making it Stephen King's best novel, because, you
have to suffer through him the least.
That being said, the book takes place over a year. The movie takes place less time than that, but I guess follows it somewhat pretty closely to shit, what was I gonna say? To the novel. Now the novel takes place in Maine, and the movie is shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm not sure if they basically stated that it was in Maine, but like you very well can tell that this was made in the damn South, so I assumed it was based in the South. And when we get into like likes and dislikes, there's a thing that I'm gonna have a little bit of a discrepancy with, knowing that this might supposed to be in Maine. But that being said, differences in the novella, the werewolf is said to snarl nearly human words, where the werewolf was originally supposed to speak in the original screenplay, but that was eliminated during the rewrite. Originally, Don Coscarelli was directing, but he ended up leaving the project due to getting sick of the producer Dino De Laurentiis, who essentially was very hard to work with. The person that did the design for the werewolf is named Carlo Rambaldi, and basically he made the werewolf, and the producer didn't like the design of the werewolf, and Stephen King was just like, yeah, well, you're not having a movie if, you don't use this guy's design, because I really, like this guy's werewolf design. So therefore, Coscarelli was basically filming scenes without the werewolf, and then decided to kind of cover that with like an idea of since he wasn't sure of how like what the werewolf design was going to be, like whether they're going to keep what the original design of the werewolf or a new one. He was thinking like, hey, why don't we make it like Jaws, where you don't really see the werewolf too often and only in certain spots, which, in Jaws, Steven Spielberg wanted to have the shark shown all the time, but like the shark didn't work throughout most of the movies, so therefore he had to, make do with what he had. And that being said, after Coscarelli got filming a few of the scenes, he got sick of the infighting, left the project, and was replaced by director Daniel Attias, who's known for this movie being his only feature-length film, but he directed different primetime television programs such as Miami Vice, Beverly Hills 90210, The Sopranos, The Wire, 6 Feet Under, True Blood, Entourage, and Deadwood, and actually received 2 Emmy Award nominations for his directing in Entourage. Oh, he also directed 2 episodes of Lost as well. With that all being said, I guess that goes into casting. So that way we can go into like more background with like different things with the casting. I'm gonna save like the best for last. We have first off Everett McGill as Reverend Lowe, who is a reverend in this. Spoiler: he's the fucking werewolf.
What? No way, dude.
And if Everett McGill is known for his role in as a caveman in Quest for Fire. He's in the movie Dune, like the David Lynch 1984 one. He's also, known for this one, Silver Bullet. He's also the villain in the Wes Craven film, The People Under the Stairs. And he also has a role in the James Bond film License to Kill. Again,
fuck!
We keep going back to James Bond. Oh, and apparently he was also in the role of Chad Richards in the soap opera The Guiding Light. Um, uh, Other main person in the cast is Megan Follows as Jane Coslaw. She is the narrator of this. She's best known for her role of Anne Shirley in the Canadian television miniseries Anne of Green Gables. She also starred as Catherine de Messy in the drama series Rain. And then we got probably the two biggest stars in this movie. Corey Haim as Marty Coleslaw, who is basically the main character, despite
He's the protagonist.
Yeah. And do I really have to actually mention shit that Corey Haim has been in? Like, has it been that long ago?
Yes.
That people would forget?
Yes.
All right. He's been in like iconic '80s. He's like a '80s child actor, and he was in like big movies such as like Lucas, License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream, The Lost Boys. Corey Haim was definitely like one of those big like kid and teen actors of that time. At least in the '80s. That being said, now it is time for the person that I'm pretty sure Ted's waiting for me to introduce. The person that plays their uncle, Uncle Red, is the legend himself, Academy Award nominated, not for this film, but his role as Buddy Holly in like the movie that he was in as Buddy Holly. What the fuck movie was? Oh, the Buddy Holly story. Duh. That being Gary Busey. If you don't know Gary Busey, he was in the Lethal Weapon, Predator 2, Point Break, Under Siege, Rookie of the Year, Black Sheep. Fuck, he was in Lost Highway, and also the world's greatest Amazon Fire TV commercials with him talking to himself.
He is also the crackhead at your local gas station. Even if it's not him, it's him.
Yeah, because at the time, even though he does have a little bit of a screw loose here, he was considered like, a legit, serious actor and not like, a crazy nut job. Then he had a motorcycle accident. And needless to say, his self-control was no longer there. Although, watching this movie, you can kind of see, like, that self-control was very, very thin to begin with. Because Gary Busey ad-libbed a lot of his lines in this.
The magic of the whole thing is you can't tell which lines he ad-libbed and which ones he didn't.
Because he felt a certain kinship with the character Uncle Red, and he was allowed to ad-lib all the lines in certain takes of each scene which he appeared. He said, although he read the lines as scripted in most of the takes, Stephen King and director Daniel Attias liked the ad-lib scenes better and decided to include most of Busey's ad-lib scenes in the final cut of the film. Also, the Jaws idea that Don Coscarelli had, Daniel Attias actually liked that idea, and then also fought with the producer Dino Laurinaitis on that idea, with Stephen King backing Daniel Attias, telling the producer to go fuck himself. And then, therefore, there's numerous parts during this where Daniel Attias was thinking, what would Spielberg do while he was like doing this? Also, fun fact: Everett McGill not only played Reverend Lowe in human form, he also acted most of the scenes in the werewolf suit. So that actually wasn't a stunt actor; that was actually the real actor. So that being said, I can basically say that this movie has like mid to positive reviews. on various different things. The biggest criticism would be the werewolf costume, which I'm pretty sure if we go into, are we going into dislikes first, or likes and dislikes, or are we going for likes first?
I mean, you take your pick. I don't give a fuck.
All right, I say we'll go with dislikes, and I think the biggest dislike on this is the werewolf. Like, it looks like a black bear. Like a poorly done black bear. It is janky as shit, and I'm glad that the editing for this shows like the werewolf very close, like in certain aspects, like shows like the eyes. Doesn't really show like the full werewolf a whole lot, with the exception of like 2 or 3 scenes.
Yeah, give or take. Actually, it might just be the last one. I don't know that you get a full body picture until.
Right. I mean, you get like a full face picture like earlier on, but it's like a brief 1 or 2 seconds.
It's a frame and a half, dude. Like it is nothing at all.
But like the reveal isn't like it's not terrible, but at the same time it's a little bit of a letdown. You know?
It's weird though, because like my gripe is not necessarily how the werewolf looks, right? But the idea of a werewolf movie, like following this plot line, right? So I think,
yeah, it is more of a slash, like an 80s slasher film, with a werewolf in it.
When you watch an 80s slasher film, right? It doesn't matter who the killer is, right? Like the idea of Ghostface is that it's just a plain white mask that vaguely resembles a face that murders a bunch of people, right? Like, and that's what works for slasher films, because it's about the slash, right?
Right.
And in this, like, I feel like if you're going to call it a werewolf film, part of it should be the idea of transitioning between human and wolf to create a werewolf. You could have replaced the fucking the pastor, whatever the fuck he's called in this movie, the minister, whatever the fuck his name is, because all religion is a sham. You could have replaced his human character with just like, hey, a wolf got out of his cage in a circus, right? Like, it doesn't. There was no point to it being human. There was no transition. There was no gap between human wolf. Like there was at least when we watched the last film last week, again peeling behind the curtain, not last week, eat shit Stallman, the idea was that like the guy was struggling to come to grips between humanity and wolf, and this one is just like, hey, he's only a human so that he could wear an eye patch once, and otherwise like it could just be any average fucking. It could be a wolf with fucking rabies, and this plot doesn't goddamn change.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, from what I've actually did research, the book itself actually isn't just in the point of view of like the sister. Like, it's actually in like the perspective of like Reverend Lowe, who's the werewolf, and Marty and Jennifer. I'm not sure if Uncle Red, but there's different characters where it's their perspective, and with this, it's just one perspective, and
see. Okay,
it doesn't No,
fuck that, dude. Because I'm about to go on my Stephen King rant. Okay, and here it is. Right, so you can put it in different perspectives in a novel, and that's fucking fine and dandy and all. Who gives a shit? Okay. In the terms of the movie, right, there was a point at the beginning when you first get established to the silver bullet before it gets completely revamped, which completely neglects the idea that, like, you've established what the silver bullet was in the first place as the motorized wheelchair, okay? Like, they established it by creating a love interest. He says something that vaguely resembles racism or ableism or whatever the fuck about cripples are going to be on welfare forever. Thank you, Stallman, for pointing out that this movie was 100% made in the fucking South. And then, well, it's just, hey, this is a place that we can throw in some ableism and people in wheelchairs deserve less. And then he rolls off in his motorized fucking wheelchair just for them to rebuild a different motorized wheelchair later, so there's no point in establishing what it was at the beginning. And then also you you realize, hey, that love interest that this fucking 12-year-old establishes, you're never gonna see her again. She doesn't matter for the rest of the plot, and everything's fucking gone. It doesn't goddamn fucking matter, right? You mentioned that it's from the point of view of the sister, right? Like, yeah, the beginning and the end absolutely are, and then there's an hour in the middle of this hour-and-a-half movie where you forget that she's the one you're seeing the story through. She's not involved, dude. It's look, Stephen King writes shit stories. He just churns shit out and people goes, oh fuck, it's Stephen King, it must be really good horror. It's kind of dog shit, right? The idea that, like,
that being said, I will say this, that being said, Ted actually does think that Stephen King does write good things occasionally, but when you write so many books,
yeah, it's a monkey with a typewriter, dude. With enough chances, right, an infinite number of chances, he's gonna write Shakespeare, and that's what fucking Stephen King does, dude. He just slams a fucking keyboard. Occasionally, it's in English, and he goes, "All right, put a horror theme music over that," because it's not like that. There's nothing. Fuck, dude. The screenplay elements, the story driving elements, like, even to follow this plot is fucking cheesy, right? The thing is, when the first two people get murdered, the first guy that gets murdered is a throwaway. They don't even establish to you as an audience that there's a werewolf. It's this guy's working on the railroad. All of a sudden, he's decapitated, and they don't explain it. They don't revisit it. There's nothing. Then
you say
finally,
this was when the first killing happened,
right?
And and then people just assumed he was drunk.
Yeah, no, and then the second one, you actually, like, see glimpses of the werewolf doing the killing. First off, if you have a parent that tries to protect you like this person's parents do, like, man, do the work yourself. I'm never advocating for that, of course, but, like, if that's your idea of a protector, Jesus fucking Christ, like, please get help. Anyway, so then they establish that it's a werewolf film, right? After the second killing, which made the first one completely and totally worthless. But now, the town has established that there's a pattern because there are 2 kills. It can't be a monster, it has to be a guy, and we have to figure out who's responsible.
Well, yeah, I mean...
So after they determine that we have to go find the guy responsible for this, they just send parties out into the woods.
This is after they killed the kid, though.
Yeah. No killer has ever existed in a house, in a real life situation. Everyone who's ever killed someone ever lives in the woods. That's the logic of this film, dude. And I would love to say that it's just, it's a shitty adaptation from the novel to the movie, and the audience knows it's a werewolf. But Stephen King wrote the screenplay. He adapted this towards film. It's his fucking fault he can't tell his own goddamn story. It's all, like, the storytelling elements are so fucking piss poor. It doesn't even flow logically. It's fucking abysmal if you intend to watch this for plot.
It's almost like 2 different movies because, like, you know, first it's like a slasher film with a werewolf, and then finally it gets to the mystery, like, okay, so who's the werewolf?
But
and then you have the suspense when it's the cat and mouse between the person that it's actually literally like 3 different freaking movies, slammed into one, like, just like, you know.
And even if there was the mystery of who's the werewolf, right? Like, they establish it themselves. They do one plot piece to solve it, and then it's over within 8 minutes. You said there's that cat and mouse game, which is great. It's the shittiest cat and mouse game that's ever fucking existed. Okay, all right. I don't know how the book sounded as things go. I'm not here to be ableist, and I apologize if it comes across that way. However, okay, once the protagonist, who is disabled, he is in a wheelchair, right, establishes that the Reverend is the werewolf, right?
With the most channy frickin' letter to send to him.
Yeah, he cuts out things of a newspaper and says, "You should kill yourself." Right? Is literally what he says to the werewolf. Right?
Yeah, we know what you are. You should kill yourself.
Right. Okay. That applies to a lot of things to a reverend, but we're going to ignore all of that piece. So anyway, the reverend goes, "Hey, you shouldn't do that," and tries to run him down with his car, chases him onto an abandoned bridge, and then, of course, the wheelchair that's motorized, that's barely been established, runs out of gas. Okay?
And by the
Now-
way, this is
now-
also a Stephen King trope of the frickin' clergy just being evil for evil's sake, and then also like the Reverend, like, well, me being a werewolf. And by the way, in the novel, you don't know, for what I researched, you don't know why he's a werewolf. Like, it's never really established. Like, he doesn't know why he's a werewolf. Like, no one knows. He's
Again,
just one day just became a werewolf.
Not a werewolf movie, just a wolf movie that also happens to attack a reverend. Anyway, but no, like, so in this cat and mouse game, right? It's only been established for like 8 minutes, right? You
And then
figure
he-
out
yeah,
it's
and
the
then he
reverend.
tr- yeah, and then he
chases
also
him onto
tries-
an abandoned bridge. The wheelchair runs out of gas, and then hey, in a game of chase, when one person can't move because disabled and can't walk, run, crawl, whatever, also out of gas, so can't move. The cat and mouse game is over, and then they just build in some other shitty fucking plot line to reestablish it. They could have skipped that entire 10 minutes of the movie, and like you could have written like any 2 lines of dialogue from Velocipaster, kind of like dog shit quality, and it would have been more worthwhile than the 10 minutes we spent watching the cat and mouse game. It's just such a shitty driving fucking plot, dude. It's awful. Do you have any more dislikes, or have I covered every fucking second of this awful fucking movie?
I do have 2, alright? And it's because you have some stereotypical Stephen King tropes of, like, you know, the evil fucking reverend. Because, you know, clergy always has to be evil, and, like, not only evil, but also self-righteously evil. Because, like, the reverend makes a statement like, oh, this is a gift from God because one of the people that I killed, you know, was going to commit suicide, and without me killing her, and if I didn't kill her, her soul would have been damned to hell. And it's like, okay, so he kills her, saves her life from hell, kills like the drunk abusive dad that's ableist with a freaking loose board.
I was trying
You
my
want to
hardest
explain?
All right. I don't know if you guys know how physics works, but I'm going to use this pencil as a demonstration, okay? So if you create a hole that is as wide as my fingers are, a board that is wide as the pencil would not pop out of such a hole, right? Okay, so that's strike number 1. When it happens anyway, because of shitty direction, right? It doesn't sit here on its hinge, and it's just loose, right? Where it's just kind of like hanging up off the edge of the hole like that, where a person is up like this coming out of the hole, and then this board is loose here, right? It moves if the floor moves, right? Okay. Well, if you tried to be the person and impale yourself on it, just like the pencil did in my hand, the pencil will slide. Because it's a board not attached to anything, it will just slide across the floor, and it will always take the path of least resistance. It will not drive through a fucking person! It's lazy, it's shitty, it's stupid. Be a quarter of the way towards believable, you pile of fucking garbage director. How can you put out that fucking product? How can you fucking put out that product and be like, yeah, I'm proud of this. I'm okay with the way this looks. How fucking dare you?
Did you literally just yell so much that you ended up cutting out?
I mean, I don't know if I cut out or not, but if it did, like, fuck it. Anyway,
You cut out on Discord.
Well, no, fuck it doesn't matter. My point is that, like, be halfway believable, be proud of the product you put out instead of saying like, it's not believable, but it does what we want it to. Fuck you. How dare you, dude?
The second thing that I have a gripe with, all right, we said that this was the novel's based in Maine. There isn't really any establishment of this bead in Maine, but apparently this is supposed to take place in 1976 in Maine. If that's the case, now here's the thing. Me being from rural Pennsylvania, there are a few people with southern twangs. Like there are, you know, out in, you know, the rural Northeast that do have a little bit of like a southern twang. Okay, whatever. You know, it's the United States. A bunch of people with different accents can like live in, you know, certain areas. It is what it is. My main gripe is that if it does take place in 1976 and is in Maine, the frickin' drunk abusive dad that gets killed is watching wrestling. He would not be watching the NWA because back in the 70s and prior to Vince McMahon, you know, nationalizing the WWF, the Northeast was controlled by Vince McMahon's dad, Vincent J. McMahon. So Vince Sr., who had the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, because you had a territory system where this promoter had this part of the country, this promoter had this part of the country, this promoter had this other part of the country. And it's like, you know, anybody that's in Maine, especially with Stephen King, writing the fucking screenplay, would have fucking known that, being from Maine.
No, they wouldn't. No, they would. No, nobody but you knows that. Only you. You might be the only living person that knows the history of fucking geographical wrestling from 1976. Fuck yourself, Stallman. It's the same way. It's the same way that at the beginning of this fucking podcast you said, "Do we really have to list Corey Haim stuff? Is it that old?" 1985 was 40 years ago. You piece of shit.
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that.
Only you. Only
my 30s.
Only you. We can move on.
That being said, we can go to likes.
Good. I need to be less angry. So obviously a highlight. Gary Busey exists.
Yeah, Gary Busey's easily the best part of this movie.
I think that the movie portrays itself in a way that takes itself too seriously.
A little bit, yeah.
Once you, as a viewer, get past that and you get to where it's campy and you know it's shitty, it's enjoyable.
Oh yeah, this movie's very enjoyable. The funniest thing is that how Ted describes this. I've never seen Ted so angry at a movie, but yet 2 minutes later, just absolutely enjoy the fucking movie.
Well, that's just it, right? Like the problem is that you have to overcome that threshold, right? Once you get past that, like, oh, this is hilariously stupid, it becomes fun, right?
Yeah,
Gary Busey. Gary, the overall like here is not that point, but the idea that Gary Busey is the one fucking walking you across the street like you're an elderly grandmother, okay? He's walking you across the street to the point that this movie should not be taken seriously because it's Gary fucking Busey, dude.
And as we said, he ad-libbed a lot of these scenes, and he does very well. He actually does very well really good acting in this. And what's funny is that he's the most rational person in this movie.
Yeah, you get to the point where he's the one who sounds most human and less like a Stephen King character, and you're like, holy shit, I sympathize with Gary Busey. And then you think about the early onset death you're about to experience because no one should ever be anything close to Gary Busey, right? The whole thing's really fucking stupid. But once you can get past the fact that it's not as serious as they think it is, it's funny as hell. You start to enjoy it.
I mean, it's really funny the fact that there's the scene at the end where they're waiting for the werewolf.
Oh my God.
And Gary Busey's passed out with a gun, and I'm just I have a feeling that I'd rather take my chances against the werewolf than a sleeping Gary Busey with a gun. And then Ted just goes, is it any more or less dangerous than a Gary Busey awake with a gun?
And I think the culmination of the whole thing about it being campy and fun, right, is the idea that at the very end, right, the kid flings himself out of his wheelchair to grab the literal silver bullet. We're going to ignore that because I don't want to get agitated. This is the fun part. He grabs the silver bullet, puts it in the gun, shoots the werewolf, right? The movie ends, the kid's a hero. And his sister asks him, are you okay? And he says, everything but my legs. I don't think I can walk, right? It's such a dog shit line. It's so fucking stupid. In the idea, partially that the kid never needed to be in a wheelchair to begin with to drive the plot. But also then the idea that he's making fun of himself that he can't walk just as a throwaway line to end this movie that thought it was taking itself super seriously. The culmination of all of that in a 2-sentence structure is just, oh my God, it's unintentionally the funniest, most brilliant shit ever.
Easily, this movie, the second half of this movie is better than the first half. It's literally after the group of hunters get massacred, is when it starts getting actually, campy and good,
I don't even know that it's like the second half is better. I think it's that by the second half, you've realized you don't have to care that hard. Like, the dude steps in a fucking bear trap, right? At the beginning of the fucking movie, or towards the front half, right? He steps in a bear trap, he screams, and the guy's trying to help him out. He gets him halfway out of it, gets distracted, lets it go, and traps the same dude in the same leg at the same spot on his leg with the same bear trap. Like, it's campy as hell. By that point of the movie, you haven't crossed the threshold. You can't enjoy that yet, right? It's not funny to you yet. But once you realize that it's like, genuinely, this movie's hilarious, then it's funny again. Like that might have been my breaking point where I was like, oh, I don't have to give a fuck anymore. Like,
well, the funny thing is that before that, you have such a serious scene of like the father who has his kid killed. Like the fucking there's the mob of hunters going out to go kill the werewolf, which they think is just a serial killer.
It's just a dude because serial killers can't live in houses; they have to live in the woods. Even that's fucking funny, dude.
But the funny thing is that he goes into the sheriff. It's like he goes, my son was torn to pieces. Shows the picture of the son's like mutilated corpse to everybody. And he's just like, it's like, as for me, I'm gonna go indulge in some private justice. And it's like there's that serious scene there, and then it goes to the hunt where the bear trap thing fucking happens.
It's again, once you realize that this movie isn't as serious as it thinks it is, you enjoy it. You just have to cross that barrier yourself.
I honestly think it's a better movie for it being as campy as it is, because if it took itself way too 100%. As serious the 100% way through, this wouldn't have worked. This honestly wouldn't have worked.
100%.
It honestly kind of reminds me of another movie that Stephen King wrote the screenplay for, and it was the only movie he directed, and that's Maximum Overdrive. If you ever seen that.
That's Stephen King.
There's a aliens sent basically make inanimate objects to kill the human populace, and it's basically Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen's brother. The lady that plays Lisa Simpson's in it, and it's like them two and a group of other people that are being held hostage by a bunch of trucks at a truck stop.
Okay.
And AC/DC does the themes. Does all the music for it. But it is campy and stupid as you think it is. But it's amazingly campy and stupid as this. So to me, I'm just thinking it's like I have a feeling when it comes to screenplays, maybe Stephen King's just he starts off yeah, this is really serious, and then it's just nah, fuck it. But
I think it's just the monkey with the typewriter thing again, that he can't put enough English words together to remain serious, and he doesn't have a choice.
God, what else? Fuck. I have to say, I think Corey Haim actually does. This is actually a really early performance of Corey Haim. I think he actually does an all right job as well. He's hit or miss on certain scenes. There's certain scenes where it's just okay, so he's totally just acting like a regular child actor, but there's other times where he's actually able to act.
Yeah, for the most part, I would say it was pretty good. I mean, I don't know how the interaction between an ad-libbing Gary Busey happens. Well, I don't mean to say that there's any detraction, right? But the ad-lib lines, if they're throwaway lines, right? Okay, that's one thing. If you have to respond to the ad-libbed lines, I give him even more credit than you already do. By all means, but no, I thought he did pretty well, given what he was given. I think the movie having a shitty plot drive and an often shitty script, I think he did a really good job for being handed, hey, here's this steaming pile of dog shit, do something, kid.
Also, the arm strength that he has in this movie.
Brother, man, 100%. 100%. You don't just learn to push yourself up a fucking cliffside with a wheelchair because you were able-bodied, okay? Like, that requires serious fucking upper body strength, dude. This kid's been training for this wheelchair. I am impressed.
He's like 12 or like 13. I know that
Doesn't
his
matter.
character's supposed to be 11, but he's like somewhat close to that, and it's like crazy that, you know, he was that dedicated to be like, I can do this ramp.
Dude, yeah.
So,
yeah, scenes that they could have cut him going up a ramp, they didn't, and he is just yeeting himself up the ramp, bro. Like,
I'm pretty sure he pops
impressed.
a wheelie there for a second. But that being said, that's really all that I got. But yeah, this movie's like really fun to just go into it remembering that it is not, despite like the first part of how this movie's set up, it's a campy fucking movie. Like, it's not meant to be taken serious. As soon as you get past that, you'll start enjoying it a lot more.
Absolutely. Are we doing rankings for these, or are we just kind of leaving them as is?
I think we'll just kind of leave them as is. I mean,
Perfect, because then I don't have to make decisions. All right, with that, I think that wraps us up for this week. But you know what? Actually, we've been saying week, and these are going to come out every day. So, like, happy Tuesday whenever you're viewing this.
oh wow, these are coming out every day.
Oh,
Jesus.
you're goddamn right. These are going to come out every day. Today, this week, and then next week, and then the week after. All of them. Just Monday through Friday. Every fucking day. You're getting all of them. Surprise. If you haven't figured it out, because this will be the second day.
Oh,
yeah, it is.
It's the month. If I forgot, yeah, we're doing also the month of October.
Yeah, I really dragged the wind out of my sails with that one. I really did. But here we are. Anyway, so please enjoy not Vampire Week. Werewolf Week. Yeah. We'll get 3 more films the rest of this week. We got 2 more weeks worth of some shit.
Tomorrow is going to be what I think is objectively. Now, I say objectively because there's one movie that's on here that I like better, or should I say I enjoy watching better, but it is but I will say that it is a movie that is by far less quality of a movie than what this is. But American Werewolf in London is what we're watching tomorrow, which I think objectively is the best werewolf movie of all time. But then again, I also haven't seen it in a while, so we might get a flashback with what we did with Silver Bullet here, with me like, I remember this being a lot less campy than it is, but I'm glad that it's campy.
Anyway, you can be sure to join the Discord. The link will be below in the description. Or posted wherever the fuck you're seeing this. There'll be a Discord link for you somewhere. I'm not sure what our movie watching schedule is going to be like by the time you see this, because we have a lot of movies to watch between when we're talking now and when you're going to hear us talk. Now for you, time is convoluted. But
yeah,
I'm not sure when we're going to be watching movies, but what you can do is you can hop in the Discord, you can join that community days roll, and then we'll ping you anytime we're going to watch a movie. Typically, movies get watched on Tuesday. We might just watch some shit just for funsies because, so be sure to join into that. You can also catch us on our individual Twitch streams. Stallman at Traductus, myself at Ted Green Eagles. I just can't put fucking words together, so we're getting the fuck out of here. Thank you guys for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow, and thanks for watching. Adios.
Yep, see ya.